What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the collaboration mixtape between J-Rock and Kendrick Lamar. Basically, this project is called No Sleep Till NYC, and it came out in the late fall of 2007. So the thing about this particular product, this is K-Dot before he was Kendrick Lamar as far as the particular pitch kind of went along with it. But this is also J-Rock in his early days as far as that pitch kind of went. The early days of Top Dog Entertainment, some pitches like that, Kendrick Lamar's label, some of those type of things. Would have to say it's a pretty heralded mixtape here. I definitely feel like some of these mixtapes that Kendrick Lamar has dropped are definitely some of his best projects that I'd say. And this is a pretty good J-Rock project as well as far as that pitch goes. I don't know as many J-Rock projects, but I had to say I really thoroughly enjoyed C4 by Kendrick Lamar back in early 2009. That's a pretty hit project. Definitely having like the Carter 3 type aspects about it and pitches like that. Definitely recommend that one. This is better than that. I'd have to say the interesting thing about it may not have a, unlike C4, this particular project doesn't have any new songs on it like Bitch I'm in the Club from C4, some of those type pitches, but this is still the better project. I'd have to say it's just an excellent type fanfare. Both J-Rock, Absol, Kendrick, some of these type folks, they completely shred a lot of these beats and just really proves some lyrical prowess as far as that particular kind of goes. Now, there's not like a ton to really dive in with this particular project just because it's mostly just mixtape freestyles and pitches like that. I like the fact that Julio G was on this particular project. There's some good stuff on here, but it seems like this mixtape is about split down the half, as there's like a half of East Coast songs on here that are instrumentals to East Coast popular East Coast songs like Brooklyn's Finest by Jay-Z, Dead Presidents 2 by Jay-Z, some of those type ones. There's one on here, Enjoy Life. I kind of wonder what that one was. The thing about this particular project is just the fact that there's not a ton of information really about it. Just would have to say there's not like a wiki article and pitches like that, so I don't know every instrumental that was kind of used on here, which is kind of an interesting thing. I mean, it's an interesting pitch just because usually Kendrick Lamar's projects have wiki articles about them, like C4 has an article written about it, but I just would have to say this one particularly doesn't, which is kind of unfortunate, I'd have to say. But this is a pretty excellent type one here. But yeah, there's some ones like Brooklyn's Finest, Dead Presidents. I would say like Kick in the Door from Biggie's Life After Death is on here, some pitches like that. There's some other East Coast beats. I really feel like the East Coast side of things doesn't hold up as much as the West Coast kind of side of things, but then I don't know every single instrumental from some of these, but I would have to say there's at least 4 songs on this particular mixtape that I didn't recommend, so I'll just go ahead. Basically, there's 16 songs on this particular mixtape, and I would have to say that out of those 16, I wound up recommending to you 12, which is a pretty excellent concept, but all 4 of the songs I don't recommend are on the East Coast side, I'd have to say. So there's some songs. The 4 songs I don't recommend would be The Show, I Ain't No Joke, Real Hip Hop, and It Ain't Hard to Tell. So I'd have to say basically some of these are just some poor type ones. They just really feel like more boom bap type beats and just less kind of more minimalist kind of skeletal type productions that just kind of felt like ripped out of like the mid 80s pitches like that. I realize that some of these are like the golden age of hip hop as far as that particular kind of goes, but I definitely feel like these lyricists need a little bit more instrumentals with some flair about it, but it's not really to match this particular score just because this mixtape is going to get a really high score. I'd have to say this is a good concept. This has some real fury on here and pitches like that. It's just an interesting type fair to kind of get J-Rock and Kendrick really in their prime doing some of this type of stuff when they're real hungry and pitches like that. Then throw an Absol in there as a bonus. It's just a pretty excellent pitch to kind of get here. So I definitely appreciate some of those. Really was interested hearing these guys rap the Dead Presidents too. That's a classic beat to rap to as far as that pitch goes. Kendrick really obliterated Kick in the Door by Biggie. It's a pretty nice one to kind of get just within that relative pitch. I'm actually surprised that there weren't more Biggie songs on this particular project, but Kick in the Door was good enough. I probably would have picked maybe like Hypnotize, also Niggas Bleed, some of those type ones, but it's a pretty good pitch to kind of get that in particular, I'd have to say. Smooth Operator is a real nice one. Just to talk about some of these, just to really be able to say. I'm just going to have to go ahead and kind of say and stuff some of my favorites on here. Like Smooth Operator is a real excellent type one, probably one of the best productions on this particular mixtape, I'd have to say. Now there's a lot of good songs, so I'm gonna go ahead and say this mixtape is gonna get a 9.25 out of 10. But I'll just recommend. I'm not gonna do like the typical descriptions just because all these instrumentals are ones that are to be found elsewhere. I'd have to say this is like a typical kind of vintage mixtape type. This is like a classic 2000s mixtape type fare where it's just strictly instrumentals, just rap showcasing rap skills more so than original songs and pitches like that. But like I was saying, Smooth Operator is a real nice one. This is off a song from the 80s. I don't know I want to say this was a rap song also at some point, maybe in the 2000s. I don't recognize what song this came from, but I do remember this being like a rap song. I do remember this being like a pretty snazzy like strip club song back in the 80s as far as that pitch can go. It's like a snazzy kind of night pen bounce that this song particularly kind of has, and it's just some late blitz. It's a real unfortunate thing. It's a real unfortunate thing that Kendrick doesn't rap on this particular song, Smooth Operator. Definitely would have liked to have seen him obliterate this particular song, but it's still pretty good that J-Rock's on this particular song along with Glasses Malone. I'd have to say so. It's pretty excellent type one. Enjoy Life's a pretty nice East Coast type beat on here. It's a pretty nice one. I don't know where I feel like I've heard this song before, but I don't recognize where it came from. It feels like a Tribe Called Quest type beat, something like that. Just real mellow, something that Common or Tribe Called Quest, one of those type folks who kind of do in particular. This is like a mellow kind of breakfast commute of a song that had in particular great for like brunch time when you can see the sunrise pitches like that, 7 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, some of those type pitches that I'd say pretty good concept. Halfway Crooks is of course like a classic Mob Deep type production on here. This is an excellent type one. It's like a creeping kind of severe late night snarl. It has in particular, and this once again like a classic beat. It's a pretty definitive one. This is off of like I want to say like the Infamous or something like that. I think it's their 1995 album. This was the song, the first song that you hear at the beginning of the 8 Mile movie by Eminem. As far as that pitch goes, it's a real classic one. Of course, Kendrick and J Rock should be able to shred this particular one. They do. Excellent concept. Cali's Finest is a nice one. This is not one that's commonly rapped to nowadays. I feel like most folks nowadays don't know about Brooklyn's Finest from Jay-Z's first album, which was called, I forget what that album's called. It's like Reasonable Doubt. I feel like that's a pretty good concept. Reasonable Doubt. It's pretty much like a classic rap album in a lot of folks' eyes, but it's kind of underrated nowadays. Just because nowadays most folks, when they think of Jay-Z, probably think of like the Blueprint or the Blueprint 2 or Blueprint 3, some of those type ones, the Black Album, some of those type pitches. But 90s Jay-Z has some potency about it. Definitely Reasonable Doubt is a classic. I do recommend hearing that particular song, Brooklyn's Finest. It's basically like some saloon music, I'd have to say, in particular. Pretty nice one. Just a woozy kind of day commerce of a song, like some daytime kind of bar hopping pitches like that, I'd have to say, in particular. Just a real nice one. Biggie is on the original format of this song. It's just Jay-Z and Biggie kind of going in on this particular one, trading bars as far as that kind of goes. So what they do on this particular song, the mixtape rendition of it, I'd have to say was pretty good concepts. Cali's Finest. And then kind of like a nice sitar type song. It's kind of like a more Egyptian type song would be New Pimp. And this is like a West Coast type beat. I want to say I've heard this song also. I just don't know what it's called in particular, I'd have to say. But it's like a summer kind of hot as hell type tune, I'd have to say, in particular. Real hot, real blazing hot summer day. Just reminds me of something like that. This desert type music. And I'd say this is like a smoke a few kind of day activity song. I definitely have to suppose. Great for like June, July pitches like that, I'd have to suppose. Pretty nice one. This is one. Kendrick's on this one, so it's a good concept. Get this. J Rock's on here. Just some good pitches kind of have. There should have been more songs with Ab-Soul on here. I definitely feel like he should have been on more of these songs in particular. They should have just, all three of them. I definitely feel like there's some songs that all three of them should have been on in particular. Like I would definitely say Death Around the Corner would be a nice one for that. I would definitely have to say Smooth Operator would have been a nice one for that. I think they're all three on Dead Presidents 3, but maybe J Rock wasn't on that particular song. I know at least Ab-Soul and Kendrick were on that particular song, but I'd have to say it's just kind of the concept about it. Just some ones. They're definitely, the amalgamation on it's pretty, the amalgamation behind this project is pretty classic, I'd have to say in particular. So it's an excellent enough concept kind of get this one. I just would have to say it's just kind of the concept that, I mean, it is excellent. That's this kind of thing. So we'll just go ahead and say it like that. It's this kind of concept. So this mixtape gets a 9.25 out of 10. Most of these beats are pretty awesome just to get here. There's some ones like America's Most Wanted by Tupac, Death Around the Corner by Tupac. There's a couple Dr. Dre productions on here, like Deep Covers on here, which is a pretty good rendition to get that one. I'd say that there's a song off like a movie soundtrack. I forget which one it is. I'll probably put it in like the connotation, something like that. But there's a song that has like the Dog Pound, Nate Dogg, and Snoop Dogg all on there, and it has like, I remember getting it off a movie soundtrack. It's a real excellent type song. Has a real breezy kind of summery tropical type beat on here. It's a pretty good one. It's called New Pimpin', I'd have to say, or not New Pimpin'. It's called Preach. It's pretty excellent concept. Get that one. Just real breezy type one. Real good West Coast type fanfare, I'd have to say. Can't Be Faded is like the song that has that's D's Nuts. It's off. Can't Be Faded is the D's Nuts beat off the Chronic, I'd have to say. So some excellent type concepts kind of get here. Some Tupac, some Dr. Dre type ones, and folks like that. Some Dog Pound type ones in particular. Some excellent type ones to kind of get here. Julio G's even on here from like the West Coast radio, so that's an excellent enough pitch to kind of get. Just would have to say, but it's just kind of the concept. I just look after just a few small snags as far as some of these East Coast type songs that just have some poor productions that probably shouldn't have been rapped to as far as that kind of goes. I definitely think there should have been some better ones on here. Surprised that there wasn't like a Wu-Tang instrumental on here, something like that, rapping to like. I mean, they definitely could have picked like a classic one and rapped to Cream, obviously, but then there's another single that's off of like the Enter the 36 Chambers from 1993. I forget what it's called. I think it's called like Protect Your Neck or something like that. Some pitches like that. There's definitely some ones, maybe a Method Man beat, some of those type pitches. Ghostface Killer from like the mid 90s, some of those type pitches. I definitely think there could have been some ones that could have been on here. Maybe even like a Public Enemy beat. I think Public Enemy might be from the West Coast, but just something like that. Maybe a Beastie Boys beat. One of those type ones would have been a nice one to have gotten. Some of those type pitches, but it's just kind of the concept. I mean, for the most part, I mess with a good chunk of some of these East Coast type. I mess with like a good chunk of some of these East Coast type beats. I don't know every single one as much as I know the West Coast type ones, but a lot of these were pretty good. I was really surprised by Smooth Operator, really surprised by Enjoy Life, was surprised by Cali's Finest. Some of these type ones are really excellent. Of course, Halfway Crooks, the Mob Deep productions are real excellent type ones. So there's some real nice ones on here. It's just kind of concept that there's a few small snags, but it gets a 9.25 score. I'd have to say the social score I'm probably going to give. The social score, that's kind of tricky. I guess I'll go ahead and give the social score like a 9.5 or a 10 out of 10. I'm just trying to think as to what it should. I'm just trying to think as to what the score it should be that it should get. I guess I could just go ahead and give it like a 10 out of 10 just because the impact behind it. There's just so many good productions on here. Just in particular, I'd have to say it's just some good stuff. Both these guys are pretty sheer lyricists. Absol on top of that's a real nice one. They have the guests on here. It's awesome that they had Julio G and they hadn't had an album out, some pitches like that. So they did have the income just to be able to get some of these and just do it well. This is a real salingly good mixtape. Just some stuff like that. Just both of them hungry. Pitch. It's just both of these MCs hungry. I'd have to say in particular. So it's a pretty dope pitch to kind of get that. I'd have to say. So basically, we'll give it a 10 out of 10 score for the social as far as that pitch can go. To some excellent type concepts. I mean, a lot of these are pretty blistering type ones just for some outings pitches like that. Obviously, Gangsta Party, which is two of America's most wanted, Death Around the Corner. Some of these West Coast and East Coast type ones are pretty social just within that aspect. I'd say the Tupac ones, the Dr. Dre ones are pretty social. The pitches like that, Smooth Operator is a definite real nice one. Halfway Crooks is a real nice one, real grimy type one. Cali's Finest is like some saloon type music, some of those type pitches I'd have to say in particular. So there's just a lot of good nice ones on here. Dead Presidents is a classic type one to get. So there's just some good stuff. Enjoy Life's a pretty nice mellow brunch time type tune, I'd have to say. Enjoy Life is a real nice mellow brunch time type tune, I'd have to say in particular. So that's an excellent type concept. So 10 out of 10 social. In terms of the future, like Kendrick has been in the midst like the Drake beef as far as that pitch is kind of gone. That's what he's been up to circa 2024 as far as that's kind of went. I don't know if any of these songs that have been circulating around these Drake diss songs are going to wind up on a project, but I would have to say in particular some excellent type stuff to kind of see Kendrick kind of doing this in his prime. Because a lot of folks feel like he was the winner in this particular stuff. Drake was pretty fiery in his songs, although I don't know that in particular because I haven't listened to any of these songs from this beef as far as this particular kind of went. But they've both been clashing pretty well as far as that pitch just kind of went along with it. I'd have to say it's the concept of what they've been up to circa 2024. I would probably review it if Kendrick dropped some of these songs on like a project, but I just would have to say that's kind of the concept about it. That's what they've been up to just in terms of that pitch. But there are some more Kendrick projects to kind of get to that I'm going to get to, including I'll also get to some J-Rock projects as far as that particularly kind of goes. So we'll get to some of these as far as that kind of happens with it, just what I'd say. But this is a real excellent mixtape here. It's just kind of concept. I like this. I like this more than C4, despite the fact that C4 was a really excellent project. I have to say, so this is definitely some excellent concepts here, just what I have to say. And I do highly recommend this particular project. And this has a lot of mixtape fire that's worth it, and a lot of club senses and just outing senses and stuff like that. Smoking some of those type fairs and just overall day commerce, summer commerce pitches like that, just being out in the wind and some of those type pitches, just really appreciating the times that I'd say. So it's an excellent type project here.